Welcome to this week's first episode of the Brandstand, where we help business leaders to understand how growing their business can be done by investing in their brand strategy. I'm Craig McVoy, founder of Beyond Brand, and I've been helping businesses to stand out from their competition for over 20 years now, enabling them to attract more of their ideal customer and then keep them for longer. This week, we're looking at the goals and the ghosts that CEOs have in terms of what keeps them awake at night and what it is that they're striving to achieve this year. Specifically in this episode, we'll be looking at how to plan for the future when you've got no idea what it looks like. Trying to plan for the unknown is going to be tricky at the best of times, but there are some things that we can do about that. Now, this may be the first pandemic that most of us will have faced, and perhaps most, if not all of us will have faced, but we've been through many recessions, so we know what they look like. Now, nobody may know what shape this recession is going to look like. Will it be a V-shaped, a W-shaped, a U-shaped? How long will it be for? How deep will it go? But what we can say is that we do understand the different drivers that happen in a recession. So we do understand that people's behaviours will be different, they will reduce their spending, they will become much more protective over the cash that they use, and that they will cut back on things that they see as not being a necessity. But there are also different drivers to this pandemic and this recession than what's happened before. So we know, for instance, that it will be much more sector specific. So the hospitality trade, the events trade, anything that revolves around getting people together in a small space or in an enclosed space will suffer from this much more than any other sectors. And therefore, those sectors that know that they are exposed to this are the ones that we're going to need to look at ways in which they can adapt and change and pivot their business for a specific period of time. And as we don't know how long that's going to be for, they should see this as being for certainly the medium term, if not the long term. And it's also important that people remain front of mind whatever is going on, and that they adapt to the current scenarios in terms of not necessarily being front of mind when being outdoors or being on the high street. So they're going to need to become much more digital in their approach in order to survive, even just being front of mind or being relevant in this period of time. And therefore, there's going to be some scenarios that you're going to need to look at. And therefore, looking at scenario simulation as to it could do this or it could do that is going to be really key towards you staying relevant in this period of time. So make sure that you're looking at different avenues that you could go down and following those and reviewing those on a regular basis. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And what are the stages in between that you'll need to consider? And looking at that, not just from the whole business perspective, but looking at it from a project and a product perspective. So will there be certain products that will be more impacted than another? Will there be products that will be able to continue in a really positive way during this period? And then also looking at the simulation as to how your customers and your company are affected during this time. So if your customers are affected, in what ways will they behave different in relation to all of these scenarios? And how are you going to adapt and adopt new processes and new techniques in each of these scenarios in order to be relevant during this time? And we've said that there will be very different opportunities in this recession than there will have been in the past, but things will never really be the same, not after an event such as the pandemic that has impacted us in many, many ways, not just from a financial or an economic perspective, but also from a health perspective. But what if it was permanent? What if this was the new norm that we ended up being in forever? Well, you'd need to adapt and you'd need to change, otherwise you would become like the dinosaurs, you'd become extinct. For a long time we've been talking about evolve or die, but now this really is a situation where those opportunities that are there for people to change are going to go to the ones who see it first. And there is a certain percentage of people who have been impacted to a degree in this pandemic that they won't even want to go back to how things were once things become much more controlled. So it will open up new opportunities for people who have now decided that there's a path that they'd rather go down that's different to how things were before this whole situation happened. So you need to consider, is there a market there and an opportunity there that you can take advantage of as well? So to summarise then, it is the first pandemic that we've been through, but we've been through many recessions, and I'm sure that we will go through more. You need to look at the scenarios that you can simulate and see how you may adopt a different approach depending on which scenario plays out in the coming months and even into the next year. And also remember that this stimulates evolution, not just for yourselves and for businesses in general, but also evolution in the ways that people react and your customers will behave, and therefore you need to consider those in your approach for your way forward. Come on. Look out this week for the next episode of the Brandstand, where we'll be covering off how to get your brand to do the hard work so that you don't have to. In the meantime, if you want to attract more customers and then keep them for longer, click the link below in order to access a recent presentation we did on Brand 101, covering the foundations that making a fantastic brand strategy into your business. Enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you again soon.